Mr. President.
The Senator from Vermont.
Thank you, Mr. President. I was in the chair and objected in my capacity as a senator from Vermont to the unanimous consent motion of the senator from Arkansas. I'd like now to have an opportunity to explain the basis of that. First, the senator from Arkansas essentially said that President Biden is appeasing pro-Hamas voters in imposing an arms embargo on Israel, and also in that assertion suggesting that President Biden is not fully supportive, as he has been throughout his political life, to Israel. But let me start by saying something where what I say, I believe, represents the unanimous point of view of this United States Senate, and that is that the attack by Hamas on Israel, the taking of hostages, the sexual assault, the murder of so many innocent Israelis is condemned by each and every one of us. No one condemns it more than President Biden, who went to Israel on his own to show his solidarity and empathy for what happened to the Israeli people. Second, I believe that every member of the United States Senate supports the Jewish democratic state of Israel. Number three, while the senator from Arkansas is suggesting a, quote, arms embargo, the United States Congress, without my support, by the way, for reasons I'll explain, has sent billions of dollars in aid with the supplemental appropriations bill. The fact that the president is raising questions about how best to secure the long-term status of Israel as a Jewish and democratic state in the context of this conflict in Gaza is in no way a suggestion of lack of support. There is serious debate within Israel about the war plan that is being prosecuted by the Netanyahu government. And in fact, a member of the War Cabinet has indicated that he will leave the War Cabinet if, in fact, the Prime Minister does not come up with a plan for what happens after the cessation of hostilities in Gaza. Is there going to be an occupation by Israel? Is there going to be a joint Arab force that will be peacekeeping? Will there be an effort to constitute a Palestinian government that has the support of its people? None of these plans envision Hamas having a role, and they can have a role. But the president is asking responsible questions that are being asked by seriously engaged military, political, and security folks in Israel. So to suggest that the president is raising questions because he's looking over the horizon and saying that adding to the 35,000 casualties in Gaza, half or more women and children, to suggest that the president, when he says we should not invade Rafah, or Israel should not invade Rafah because of the catastrophic consequences of more humanitarian losses, to suggest that when the president says 2,000-pound bombs that would be dropped on the most densely populated couple of square miles in the world without massive civilian casualties is not showing support for Israel, I dispute that. I disagree with that. This effort requires judgment, and the president has been given authority by this Congress to send arms to Israel. He has made a decision that 2,000-pound bombs should not be included in that. And he's not alone. There are many in Israel raising the question about the wisdom of how this war is being prosecuted. We know that in order for there to be peace between Israel and the Palestinians, we must have a two-state solution. That is not just the policy of the Biden administration. It's been the policy of the Obama administration, the Bush administrations, the Carter administration, 2 states for 2 people, where the respective rights of those people for self-governance, the renunciation of violence towards one another, has got to be the long-term goal. We have a situation right now where our ally, Israel, and the current government, Israel, disagrees with that 2-state solution approach. And in fact, the Netanyahu government position is that there should be 1 state. And what we're seeing right now is the escalation of violence by extreme settlers in the West Bank that is causing more instability. So the president, as our commander-in-chief, must be given some latitude about how best to distribute whatever munitions have been authorized by the United States Congress. And in the president's judgment, 2,000-pound bombs to Rafah are the wrong munitions at the very wrong time. All of us have enormous heartbreak for what has happened to those Israelis and their families, to those Palestinians in Gaza who are being used by the vicious Hamas as human shields. But the president is committed, as I'm committed, as I believe all of us are committed, to the peace and security in the Middle East, and we believe, most of us, that that requires a 2-state solution where there's an independent, democratic Palestinian state, self-governing, respectful of Israel's security, and where there's an Israeli state that reciprocates towards the Palestinians in Gaza and in the West Bank. And it's for those reasons, Mr. President, that I stood in opposition and objected to the unanimous consent request of my colleague from Arkansas. I yield the floor.